Hello, I'm Gordon.D.Webster, railway author and former journalist, and you may have seen me on the BBC Scotland programme Inside Central Station. Now, tomorrow morning, I'm going to cover SPT Roundabout Journey Part 3, and this is the big one this time. I'm going all in, and I'm going to cover the whole Strathclyde network in one day. You'll see I've already got Part 1 and Part 2 of my Roundabout Journeys on this YouTube channel. Thanks to anyone who's watched. For Part 3, like I said, I'm really going to go for it. I'm going to start fairly early in the morning, finish in the evening, maximum mileage, maximum haulage, maximum value for money. And it is great value for money. Once again, folks, it's around £7, just over £7 for an SPT all-day roundabout pass. Yeah, you may recall if you've watched them, Roundabout Journey Part 1 and Part 2, they were quite relaxed affairs. I did say at the beginning I intended to take my time, have a nice leisurely lunch, not start too early. So yeah, this one's going to be different. Once again, I'm going to examine the history of the railways of Glasgow and the Strathclyde area, and I will be mentioning my book, of course, Railways of Glasgow Post-Beaching, and it's also worth mentioning my other book, Renewing Britain's Railways, Scotland. Whether somebody has previously managed in one single day to cover the entire roundabout network, I'm not sure, but it's really, really big because it goes well out of Glasgow. I don't really know if it's possible to cover everything, but what I'm going to do is my minimum objective is to cover every station in Glasgow, every bit of mileage within the city, maybe including the underground. And then objective B, so objective A is non-negotiable. Objective B is to cover as many of the branches as possible that do go out of the city, so as much of the Strathclyde network as I can. I don't think I'm going to do it all. And further rule I'm just going to set myself is I'm going to start the journey tomorrow morning at 8 AM and finish at 8 PM. So the rules are there's a 12-hour window. So on with the journey. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to head up the River Clyde here, back into Glasgow. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the audio commentary for Strathclyde Roundabout Part 3. If you've watched my Part 1 and Part 2 videos, you will recall I started at Dilreach and I'm doing the same again today. I'm just buying the ticket before I board the first train, which came swinging in off the Balloch branch line. Please like, comment or subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so far, it's really, really appreciated. So this is the train from Balloch. This is train number 1. Now this day, this is the big one, and there was a lot more trains to come. So we're gonna move at quite a fast pace. This particular video, I'm gonna cover bits of railway history once again, but yeah, like I said, it's just gonna be a slightly different pace compared to Part 1 and Part 2. What I'm gonna try and do is cover some of the areas that I never got to before. Now this map here shows you the Strathclyde roundabout network, and the white area is the area in which the ticket applies. So you can go further out. It just, you know, one actual correction is I think I maybe said Lanark and Lark Hall were part of the roundabout network. You can actually see, looking at the map here, Lanark and Lark Hall are just out with it, but anywhere in white is fine really. So that's why I started at Dilreach. That's the first station in. So you can go all the way up to Mulgai, Croy, Cumbernauld. I'm actually going to go down to Neilston today, so I was keen to get out to Neilston and Barhead and places like that, which I didn't cover before. But like I said, this video is going to be at a faster pace. It will speed up, by the way, and you will see I will be, you know, fast forwarding and doing some crazy stuff like that. So yeah, we're up on the top left here. You'll notice that Dalmuir is a junction. And I'm just going to start by giving you a bit of history of Dalmuir, and then we are going to move a bit of a faster pace. On Part 1 and Part 2, I didn't actually get off at Dalmuir, so on this occasion we're going to get off and have a quick look around. As my Class 320 leaves, I've just got off train number 1. Now, it's just heading on the line towards Drumchapel and Westerton. The other side of the station, the lines there lead towards Yoker and Clydebank, so it's an important junction. Now it was called Dalmuir Park because where those trees are there is where the big park is, so it was so named between 1952 and, when was it, 1973, Dalmuir Park. So it became just simply Dalmuir after 1973, and in 1979 the Argyll line was reopened. That was the Glasgow Central low-level line, and a 5th platform was added. And that's a Class 156 West Highland train that's just stopped there. But yeah, you'll see we're now focusing in on platform 5, the Bay platform. That 320 is heading up the line towards Yoker and Clydebank as the Oban and Mallaig train leaves. So all West Highland trains stop here, and that includes the Caledonian Sleeper from London Euston. The high-rise flats, which you can see there now, they were quite, I think they were sort of well known for basically local yobbos chucking stones at passing trains, which I think steps have been taken to stop that. And there's work going on in the waiting room there. Now we're going to pick up the pace, and we're going to take a fast train to Glasgow Central Low Level. And we'll just take a bit of a breather once again. We're leaving Exhibition Centre Station, which was formerly called Finniston. I went into the history of all these lines in part 1 and part 2 of my Glasgow Roundabout videos. I'm just showing you a map here from a Railways of Glasgow book, and that shows you most of the west end of Glasgow. So you'll notice we're on the bottom right there of the screen. We're about to go into the dotted line. There's the subterranean section. Now most of these stations on this particular line through Central Low Level have no ventilation shafts. Anderston does actually, but Glasgow Central Low Level, no ventilation, completely underground, quite a low ceiling. And when you think these lines were originally steam worked, it was quite an unhealthy environment. And I think that might have been part of the reason for the line closing in 1964. But it was expensively reopened in 1979 as what is now called the Argyll line. Glasgow Central Low Level, it's just an island platform. It's now numbered platforms 16 and 17, so they're regarded as part of the same station as the high level. The low level was opened in 1896. The high level itself had been back in 1879. So it was steam worked until it closed in 1964. It then got expensively reopened in 1979. Originally it was known as the Glasgow Central Railway, and that became part of the Caledonian Railway and then the LMS. So we're just going to have a bit of a look at Glasgow Central Low Level to see the island platform. Now the dark, ghostly secrets of Glasgow Central could merit just a video in itself. And one thing which is notable about the low level is there's an island platform, but there used to be two, and the old platforms, they're still there, they're just hidden away. And I think they're actually behind that wall there. I might be wrong. If you know better, please let me know in the comments. But see, there's a bit of a gap there, and sometimes you can see down there, and it looks like that's maybe the old platforms. For a full history of Glasgow Central High Level, seen here, if you check out my Glasgow Roundabout Part 1 video, we're just jumping on board a Class 380 electric to head towards Barhead. There seems to be a manually operated PA system there. Must be the guard or the ticket examiner doing an announcement. The PA systems on board these trains have changed a lot through the years, but if you listen to the new one, the brand new one, you can hear at Crossmaloof.
This is Crossmaloof. This train is for Barhead.
A totally new voice they've now got on all the recordings, and if you compare that one, I think that's a bot. I don't think that's a real person. And here's a map of the south side of Glasgow. And by the way, just to say, I was a little bit behind time by this point because I brought a power bank to charge my phone, but I didn't bring a cable to connect it, and I needed my phone for many things that day. So I had to quickly nip to a shop in Glasgow city centre in the absolute peeing rain. I almost said a bad word there. I'm just about to head out to I'm starting to head out to Barrhead, obviously. We're taking the line on the bottom left of that map there, going out towards Barrhead. Now, that was originally part of a joint railway. It was operated jointly between the Caledonian Railway and the Glasgow and South Western, the GSWR. And it was known as the Glasgow, Barrhead and Neilston Direct Railway. It opened to Barrhead in 1848. And obviously that became part of the LMS. And the LMS and originally the Caledonian Railway operated the line out to Neilston, but that was originally a through route. It went all the way right out to Ayrshire, out towards Ardrossan, but now it's a branch which terminates at Neilston. But there was originally another Neilston station on the line beyond Barrhead, because the line to Barrhead actually goes out all the way to Kilmarnock. It's part of the Glasgow and South Western main line. And it was electrified as far as Barrhead only in 2023. It's still diesel hauled beyond there, hence the Class 380, which we went down on. And unfortunately, because of all the rationalisation in 2022 and 23, the signal box has been demolished. The former Caledonian Railway signal box was built in 1894, and it's kind of where the trees are in the distance there. Sadly, it was closed in 2022 and it's been knocked down. And I decided to go back by diesel. I took this Class 156 on a working from Kilmarnock. And now we're on board an electric train heading towards Paisley Canal. And we're just about to pass Shields Road Electric Depot. We diverge here from the original Glasgow and Paisley Joint Railway, which goes out towards Paisley Gilmer Street. We take the line, it was essentially a loop line built out towards Paisley Canal, and it was operated by the Glasgow and South Western Railway. We're just starting to diverge here at Shields Junction. This was sadly the scene in 30th of August 1973 of an accident, a collision between two multiple units, which sadly took the lives of a driver and 4 passengers round about this spot you'll see here on the camera. We're actually quite close also to Corker Hill Depot, which was the big GSWR steam shed, and now it's a ScotRail depot. And now this is on me, I completely failed to get it in video. I moved to the other side, I then get distracted by getting my ticket checked, and I totally forgot about filming it, so that stupid error by me, like I need to own up to that one. Daft. Anyway, just leaving Corker Hill Station. You'll see there's various spaces in the line. You can see that it used to be double track, and there's your second platform at Crookston also. So this line, it was still a double track main line until 1983, all the way out to Elderslie Junction. And it then closed in January 1983 to passengers along with the Kilmacombe branch. Originally that was part of the same route which went all the way out to Greenock, Prince's Pier, but all shut in 1983. This is the remains of Hawkhead Oil Terminal near Paisley, and now the line was retained as far as there for freight and pretty much as far as Paisley Canal Station, but then the track got lifted between Paisley Canal and Elderslie in 1986. Then, in 1990, they reopened the line to Paisley Canal as a branch line, and now there's buffers, and you can see just beyond where it used to continue there, out towards Elderslie Junction, Kilmacombe and the rest. This is our train just leaving. So it's now a single track line. You can see there where the double track line used to continue. The station was resited as well. That's the original station building, which is now a restaurant. I thought it was a good idea to bring the map back up, and you can see, looking at it, where the two main stations in Paisley are in relation to one another. You can see clearly on the top left, the Paisley Canal line used to continue on the dotted line to join the main line through Gilmer Street. And I did forget to mention, actually, the canal line was electrified in 2012. It had been DMUs initially after it reopened in the early 90s. But we're just going to talk about the main line through Paisley Gilmer Street now. Now, Paisley Gilmer Street is very significant because it's the junction where the line from Ayr and the line from Gourock and Weems Bay join. And it was a I use the term the joint line because, now this is a bit of a mouthful, when it opened in 1840, the Glasgow, Paisley, Kilmarnock and Ayr Railway worked the line alongside the Glasgow, Paisley and Greenock Railway. Now that of course became the Caledonian Railway and the GSWR, and then it was the LMS after that. But yeah, Paisley Gilmer Street's a very significant place. Obviously, you'll see the line towards Glasgow goes through Cardonald and Hillington, and there was also formerly a station at Ibrox until the mid-1960s. There was also a branch line out to Renfrew, so these were victims of beaching. Now, it's a busy station, Paisley Gilmer Street. There's 4 platforms, and there was sadly another accident much later in April 1979, the 16th of April. There was an Ayr to Glasgow DMU which passed a starting signal at danger, leaving the platform, and obviously it had to use the crossover to get onto the main line towards Glasgow, and at the crossover it collided head on with a pair of EMUs, and sadly both drivers and 5 passengers lost their lives. Now, by that time, the station was electrified because the Inverclyde lines were electrified in 1967, and the whole of Paisley Gilmer Street was as well. But the Ayr line, it was only electrified to just be on the station itself. The Ayr line wasn't electrified until 1986. So, on this particular day, I walked from Paisley Canal Station to Gilmer Street. Now, something very strange happened here. I was waiting on my train back to Glasgow. There was someone screaming down the platform, yelling at people that she didn't know. It became clear when I got on the train who it was actually, and you'll see her in your picture here. It was very, very strange, but she basically got on the train, and that's her on the right hand side in the long coat there. This lady proceeded to tell everybody on the train to f*** off. She screamed and started saying about how she believed in Jesus and that we weren't her kind of people. Now, you'll see it's a very busy train. Everyone just stunned and didn't really react. I actually did respond to the lady that that's no way to treat people, and her behaviour was out of order basically, but nothing really happened. She seemed to kind of calm down and was quiet for the rest of the journey, but unfortunately I didn't get much of a view out the window because the train was so busy, so that was a bit of a weird incident. We're now on a train for Neilston, covering onto the Neilston branch at Cathcart. I should point out that although I was trying to jump in as many trains as possible on this day, I did have to stop for lunch. I went to one of the local Wetherspoons in Glasgow city centre, had a nice cold pint, and I did take about an hour out of the day, but after that I got on this train. Just looking again at the Neilston branch, which is on the bottom left here, this was originally a through line, as I mentioned earlier, and it used to go through to Uplaw Moor and eventually on to Ardrossan. It was cut back to Uplaw Moor. Then in 1962, Uplaw Moor was closed and it became a terminus, with the line coming to an end at Neilston. But the GSWR main line, which I mentioned earlier, which I got off at Barrhead, it goes through to Kilmarnock. It also kind of bypasses the edge of Neilston. So the present Neilston station used to be Neilston High, whereas the adjacent one in the GSWR main line was Neilston Low. So from 1962 onwards, yeah, like I said, trains would terminate at Neilston, and it was also eventually just changed to simply Neilston rather than Neilston High. Now, there's also something particularly unusual about Neilston as it is today, and that is the way in which the trains are reversed after arriving from Glasgow Central. Now, there's 2 platforms at Neilston, and you'll see I've just got off this train. Now, it's like a turn-back siding, so to speak, but the train goes into this siding on the old track bed, and then the driver changes end and it goes to the other platform, so it's almost like a run round, but it's an electric unit, and I think it might be to do with the way the signalling's configured. It's a bit unusual. So yeah, it adds a bit of operational interest, I suppose. Now, after getting back on this train, this is where the major mistake of the day happened. this is just to show you the Cathcart Circle map. So I got to Cathcart. Now, what I should have done is, this is what happens when you don't plan things properly. I should have gone on to Mount Florida there, but I, for some reason, got off at Cathcart and I missed a connection. If I'd gone through to Mount Florida, then I would have actually been able to get a train out to Newton, and it just totally messed things up for me. To be fair, it is surprisingly easy to get mixed up with the railways down in the south side of Glasgow. There's a lot of lines and a lot of stations, and I just feel like it gets a bit more complex looking at the timetable. You get Cathcart Circle trains that go right the whole way around the circle. You get more trains running the east side of the circle. The west side's quite quiet by comparison. Then you get Cathcart Circle to Neilston, Cathcart Circle to Newton. All these names that sound the same. Neilston, Newton, Pollokshaws East, Pollokshaws West, Pollokshields East, Pollokshields West. And yeah, I guess I just underestimated it. And anyone who's changing trains, you know what it's like. If you miss one train, you've missed your connection, and then you can be waiting half an hour to get back to where you were meant to be. So that's what happened here. So ultimately I messed up, and it just meant I couldn't get to quite as many lines and on as many trains as I potentially would have got on. But I just had to wait my time at Cathcart, and that's a train you can see there on the line which bypasses the station, which comes down from Kirkhill. So waiting in the rain at Cathcart, I decided to head up the east side of the Cathcart Circle up towards Pollokshields East on this Class 318. Pollokshields East is an interesting location because, as well as the Cathcart Circle trains that stop in the lines in the foreground, you get the lines up the back there. That's the Glasgow and South Western line to Barrhead. So you get a mix of diesel and electric passing by the station, a very high frequency. And I'm getting on a train. Let's pick up the pace again. On to Motherwell, where we once again encounter the West Coast Main Line, with a Pendolino heading there down towards London Euston. So what I'd done the last leg of the journey, as I'd headed up to Glasgow Central, had a quick change from platform 6 to platform 3, and then jumped in another unit down to Motherwell, and now I'm at Motherwell. I'm about to go on to the Hamilton Circle, Class 320 once again. The nice murals which they have had ever since they were introduced to traffic. And we're passing high over the River Clyde here on the approach to Hamilton. The Lark Hall branch diverging there. And also you'll see in Hamilton West, the E.G. Steel Wagon Terminal, Wagon Works there, that line leads to. And then at Newton, the West Coast Main Line is encountered once again. There used to be platforms serving the West Coast Main Line and the suburban trains. Now they are just on the side of the station which serves the suburban trains only. There's a junction towards Kirkhill and the Cathcart Circle also. A busy location with lots of trains, a lot of fast movements. There was sadly an accident here also on the 21st of July 1991, which resulted in 4 deaths when a signal was passed at danger. The signal box there, former signal box, now disused. Towards the end of this nice Saturday afternoon, the heat really was on. Could I make all my remaining connections? obviously running out of time now. I've done a quick out and back trip, a very quick out and back trip there on the Queen Street low level line, so I'm now changing onto the high level station, and I'm about to head on the now electrified Edinburgh and Glasgow main line, and I'm just going as far as Croy. Here's an HST arriving. And the famous depot at Eastfield as we pass at quite high speed. Now, I did go into more detail about Eastfield in my first Roundabout video. And this is Cadder Depot, which was formerly Cadder Goods Yard. It was largely disused for many years apart from the odd bit of permanent way traffic. It's now used as a servicing depot for the ScotRail HST fleet. And I've just got off at Croy. I'm just about to change platform very quickly. It used to be all Turbostern 158 units heading through stations like Croy and Lenzie. Now, of course, it's the electric units, and I'm back and now at Queen Street low level. I was on a Balloch train. I've now jumped onto a Helensburgh train at Hindland, and of course the toilet is not working because they never are. This Helensburgh Central train was the final train of the day, a 12-hour marathon out on the railway to get me back for my 8 PM deadline into Dalriach, but I actually continued on to Craigiedoran just to round things off here. A lot of fun. I could have easily actually done a lot more trains and a lot more mileage that day. I could have started even earlier and I could have stayed late into the evening, but I just chose not to. Also, I guess I could have had a quick lunch, a quick sandwich on the train or something, rather than disappearing for a couple of pints. And here's a full list of every train that I travelled on in my roundabout journey. I'm now just going to hand over to myself at the end of that day.
Hello my friends, I'm back home now. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you everybody for your continued support on this YouTube channel. Anyone who's able to like, comment or subscribe, it's very much appreciated. I want you to know that. Boy oh boy, what a day that was. I was going to do a closing statement at Craigiedoran, but it was just too windy, so I'm back home now. The Collins glass is filled. I'm enjoying a refreshment after quite a long and tiring day. As always, spending a long time in trains in Glasgow during the day, you do get more than you bargained for. Generally, the passengers I encountered were all very well behaved. I'm talking about, I think I travelled on over 20 trains in the end. I didn't expect a lady shouting abuse and screaming at a train full of passengers, a coach full of passengers, but yeah, like I said, you often get more than you bargained for on public transport these days. It was a trip which was very difficult to plan, all the connections over such a large geographical area. Quite tricky. When I was trying to plan it last night, I found looking at all the timetables, it didn't quite seem possible to cover the whole roundabout area network. So I went in today with the intention of really just trying to do the Glasgow bits And then if I got to some of the branch lines outside the city, or some of the main lines outside the city, it would be a bonus. So it turned out in the end, I probably could have just nailed all the Glasgow stations and then taken everything from there. But because of some poor decision making on my part a couple of times, all the connections didn't quite work out. So I wasn't quite there, but you can generally get the essence of the Strathclyde networking I was trying to do, just bomb from place to place. I did manage to cover just about all the main routes, and some of the ones I didn't were ones which I did cover in my part 1 and part 2 roundabout journeys which preceded this video. It really did turn out to be a challenge and a race against the clock today on the roundabout journey, and I genuinely, when I got out of Neilston, I got to Cathcart on the south side of Glasgow, I genuinely thought briefly, I'm maybe going to do this and I'm going to get all the lines covered by 8 PM, but as soon as I made the daft error of getting off at Cathcart and not Mount Florida and thereby missing a Newton train, that pretty much killed it, but great day. So thanks again everyone for your continued support of my YouTube channel and my railway books. I'm about to take a well-earned rest just now and enjoy my Saturday evening in the house. Cheers everyone.